If it feels like you're doing your spiritual practices, but you are not seeing the progress and upliftment you seek, there's a reason. It may be because of invisible habits that are sabotaging your spiritual efforts. Let's uncover 7 silent blockers that could be keeping you from reaching your highest potential. It can be frustrating at times when you're trying to do your best, but somehow you're feeling, I'm not breaking through in some of these areas. I'm sort of moving here, but sometimes it feels almost like I'm going in a circle. Well, when that's happening, we do have to question ourselves a little bit. We have to ask, is there anything I'm doing that is unintentionally interfering with the very things I'm trying to achieve? And let's talk about one of the first ones right now, impatience. Often when we're on the spiritual path and we're in the early stages of it, we want it now, right? We want it to happen today. I want to be enlightened today. I had my awakening. It's so exciting. So it must happen now. And we don't realize that we have started on a journey that's going to be a lifelong pursuit. Once you've had the awakening, it's hard to go back because you're seeing life from a different angle, even though you may not understand all the pieces of it yet. The 91st Psalm says it so beautifully, right? With long life will I satisfy God and show my salvation. So what we have to do now is we have to start to take the long view of life when we're in our spiritual journey. Whatever stage you're in at it right now, realize it's like learning an art, it's like learning a language, it's like anything else in life. You're going to keep getting better at it with time. You don't want to delay things, you don't want to go too slow, but at the same time, you're expecting overnight changes, it's not going to work out. In the story of Aesop's fable between the race between the tortoise and the hare, who won that race, the jackrabbit or the turtle? It was the turtle. So in this journey, you want to take the slow, steady road, the long view, when you're thinking the big picture of things, just like when you're planning different phases of your life, you're thinking, okay, what am I doing in my retirement? Later, maybe many years away from that, but you're already starting to make certain plans, laying down certain pillars, so that you have this beautiful rhythm. The key here, the attribute you've got to start working if impatience seems to be one of your triggers here, one of the things that's holding you up, is of course to develop patience. Patience. It shows up in the auric field in many ways, but one of the ways is this beautiful emerald light. When it's seen in the auric field to a strong degree, it shows that this person does let things happen in divine time. In all my years of working in metaphysics, I've noticed that the beautiful things that have happened did not happen when I expected them to. I had to do my work, but it happened in its own time. And there's a little bit of a surrender with this, a trust that has to happen. Eventually, you will start to see the fruits of your many labors. Another mistake that can get in our way is that we try to make the divine work for us rather than us work for the divine. When we've had our awakening, when we're on the spiritual road, we're awakening up, we're entering into a whole new dimension of life. In the beginning, and this is perfectly normal, we are trying to use the spiritual principles to improve the life as we know it. Right? How can my spiritual growth help me in my job, in my finances, and my relationships? And that's a perfectly natural thing to want to do. And this is also helping us to understand the divine through the lens that we already understand. There's an expression, if Muhammad won't go to the mountain, then the mountain will go to Muhammad. It's a very mystical saying, actually. And what it's teaching is that in the early stages of our spiritual development, really, the mountain is coming to Muhammad. The greater powers are coming in to help the individual. After you do this, though, for a while, and you start to acclimate to these higher powers, a shift has to happen. Then, instead of how can the divine serve me, how can I serve the divine? We start that surrender part. And that's Muhammad going to the mountain, which means you are now trying to adapt your life, the life that you know, to more beautifully mirror the divine life. And that does mean change. That does mean fluctuations and new things will come in. But now your mind is thinking more about, oh, not how does this help me, but how can I be part of this great, glorious process? How can I better align with it, better be a part of it, better cooperate with it? And this is part of the emptying out. The Buddhists talk about, emptying yourself. We have to kind of let go of those personal things, and they don't always want to go. Now, some people go the other way with this. They go to the extreme and they drop everything and they think that, okay, right now, today, I'm going to live the life like of the ascetic. And there you've got to be careful because there's a pacing with this transformation, and you want to do it in a divine rhythm. Another habit that can interfere with our spiritual progress is fear. Fear of the unknown. It does happen sometimes that people have had their spiritual awakening, but they're comfortable in the life they know, and they don't want to make the changes. The divine is knocking on the door, and they're saying, sorry, not home right now. And the sad part is it's a missed opportunity. So it does take courage to walk the spiritual path, and you'll do it at the pace you're comfortable with. But even if it's small steps, you want to sort of step outside that comfort zone. If you've had the calling, it's not accidental. That was the divine knocking on your door because it is the time for you to start on that journey. But even though it may be the time for you to start on that journey, it's still your free will. Are you going to fully walk through this? So give yourself the space to let this happen. Have the courage to step a little bit into the unknown. That's that old expression, fortune favors the bold. You may make some mistakes along the way. Of course, that's inevitable. But if your heart's in the right place and you're really aiming for the divine, remember, as you reach out for the divine, what? The divine is reaching out for you. And eventually it will be a blessing in all parts of your life, but through some of the shifting phases, it will take courage, it will take stamina to stay the road, but keep building up that courage in you. And if you do feel that fear shaking you in your boots, question, what is it I'm afraid of? Now, we do want to make wise decisions. We don't want to make rash decisions and things. But at the same time, question your fear. What is it that I'm really afraid of at this moment? What am I really apprehensive of moment? And as you face your fears, of course, you will conquer them. Now, another one that can really get in our way is peer pressure. So this can be a real challenge because if you're pursuing your spiritual work, and those around you, the ones you love so dearly, did not have the awakening as you did, you may feel, well, maybe I shouldn't pursue this. You recognize its value, you want to do it, but you are listening to the voice of others. And the answer here, as Shakespeare taught, to thine own self be true, and in turn thou cannot be false to anyone. You have to be true to you. Remember, we are first children of the divine. We're here in this earth to love each other, to support, to interact with each other, but in the end, we're accountable and answerable to the divine. And if you're feeling that sense of integrity in you, that's saying, this is really the way I need to go, you have to walk that path. Now, if others don't always understand, the best advice I can share with you is love. Love them all the more. Show them how much you care about them. This is not that you don't care. This is that I have this calling and I must pursue this. My soul is crying out for this. If that person really loves you, it might take a little time, but they'll eventually catch up. They'll realize their love for you is more important than if you totally agree with each other on everything. It's okay to disagree on some things. You can mutually respect each other and still have life-enriching relationships. But please, make sure you're building an environment around you that is supportive. And of course, this may mean that you will seek out others on a similar spiritual journey. so that there is that sense of fellowship, there is that sense of spiritual community. Seeking out like-minded souls does help encourage us to realize, okay, I'm not alone in this. Really, there are others along with me. Now, another habit that can be a stickler is stubbornness. Stubbornness to change. I'm going to do it my way, or it's the highway. So as the divine is coming into your life, you are going to see through weaknesses in your own character. They are going to start to become more obvious. When the light, shall we say, of the divine is shining on you, it's shining on the good and the not so good. So as you start to see the shortcomings in your own character, which will show up because you're now trying to unfold a deeper part of you, so the things that are still not quite as refined are going to be more obvious, then you have to be willing to develop your character. If you just start saying, well, no, this is just the way I am, well, it's good to recognize, okay, this is where you're at, but is this where you want to be? This, again, is one of the most beautiful parts of the spiritual journey, the maturity of character. You know, you are the best example of the spiritual work by the way you're living your life. That's what others really see, more than what you're saying. Sometimes people like to talk the talk. They love to share spiritual things they've learned, but they're not really practicing them. So that's one of the challenges in the metaphysical work, is that sometimes you're getting certain knowledge and ideas, and that make you think, oh, I'm already there, when it's just the starting point to get there. So work on those character blemishes as they pop up. And when you do see them, and they often pop up at unexpected times, something, trigger that to reveal it to you, then you can develop and really fashion that the way you need to. And now another one that can really get in the way is just literal bad habits. Sometimes we develop just some poor habits. Maybe we have a drinking problem. Maybe we have a smoking problem. Maybe there's something we're doing that's obviously just not moving on the higher registers. It's just the way it happened. It developed over perhaps years, or something we carried over from our younger days, and we never really took care of it. And these things now you have to take care of. The spiritual life is wondrous, but it calls us to live I call it sort of the clean, sober life, because you have to be able to see things clearly. You have to be able to see things objectively, and these bad habits can really pull us down. Now, the beauty is, as you start to build up more power, maybe habits you thought you'd never be able to break, let's say that smoking habit, you're now able to turn around. Sometimes it can happen pretty quickly. Sometimes it takes time. Again, don't condemn yourself or anything of that nature, but at the same time, you have to look, just like you have to look at your character traits more honestly, you have to look at the obvious, not so wonderful things that you may be doing in terms of a habit itself that you have to turn around. You're your own best judge of this. You're the ones that are going to kind of make the decision here. But at the same time, again, you're trying to live what? By a higher standard. And the beauty is, as you do eventually drop some of these not so great habits, you look back and you say, well, gosh, I feel so much better now. They're actually confining you. They're actually restricting you. I know I'm saying something that can be very difficult if you're having a serious alcohol issue. It can be a very difficult thing to overcome. But again, at the same time, if you're determined and you're bringing in that greater spiritual power, you're bringing in the spiritual principles, you can make that transformation. Because remember, even if when we have these blemishes, they're just habits. They're not part of the eternal you. The eternal divine you, that spark of life that is your soul, is beautiful, pure, and this is the journey to bring that presence more out. Our final one we'll look at today is ignorance. In the spiritual journey, and really like anything in life, you need knowledge. You need true understanding. These things don't happen quickly, and there's too many that want to get out there and just do it right away, long before they're ready to do it. And what happens is they're speaking a lot through ignorance. There's a lot of false prophets out there right now. Not all spiritual teachings are of equal value. So you have to do what we call discernment. You have to question the source of where you're getting the material from, or understanding, first of all, does it jive with you? Does it challenge your integrity in any type of way? And is it practical? Does it have a practical use, either to change in your life or in your behavior? So this is really an important thing. Now, we do have a challenge in today's world with this, because these teachings, the metaphysical, mystical teachings, were originally delegated to the secret mystery schools and ashrams of the world. You had to be initiated into this. It was not common, and it was not easy to enter these schools, because the ones that led it wanted to make sure the people were ready for this work. But because of the greater global awakening that's going on now, the divine is opening up some of the, shall we say, more secret knowledge to be more readily available for the world, because there's so many people hungry for it right now. But it still calls out we have to be more discerning than ever to recognize what is of value and what is not of value. So the knowledge is the great key. You do need knowledge in your spiritual journey if you're going to succeed. In closing, I want to share that you can overcome any internal challenge or external challenge you may have in your spiritual growth. Challenge yourself, question yourself. How am I doing? How am I doing at this stage of my growth? Am I really seeing the changes in myself that I want? Am I happy with where I'm going? Am I in the right direction? Sometimes there's some course corrections to make. The divine will always be there to support you, but of course we have to do the growing, walking ourselves. If you want to learn more about metaphysics and your spiritual evolution, check out our website, spiritualarts.org. And please subscribe to this channel for more videos like this.